Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be all about hypnobirthing, so my experience with Daisy and the tools I use and what my plans are for this pregnancy, labour and birth. So if you want to find out a little bit more, then keep watching. In this video, as I mentioned, I'm going to talk about my experience with Daisy because I always think it's really positive to hear other people's hypnobirthing experiences, and it makes it become less of a myth and more of a reality. And then I'm also going to talk about the tools that I use as well, so I'll get onto those at the end. But let's talk about my experience. So as a bit of background, if you're new to my channel, this is my third pregnancy now, and I also have Bill, who is my little boy, who is 5.5 years old now, and he was 13 days late, and he was an induced labour with the prostaglandin gel, which did work for me. My waters were broken a few hours into labour, and I progressed very quickly, and I had really fast birth, basically, for your first time at least anyway. So the second time round, while my labour with Bill was really positive, I wanted to feel more in control with my labour with Daisy, who is my 20-month-old little girl. And the main reasons for feeling this way was that while he arrived quickly, I wasn't able to have any pain relief because gas and air made me feel very sick, and I was too far gone in my labour to have anything like, you know, an epidural and things like that, and I didn't really want to go down the pethidine route because that just personally wasn't something that I wanted to do. So his labour was quite a overwhelming and frightening experience, and I think your first time round a lot of the time it is, isn't it, because you don't know what to expect. So they say that knowledge is power, but I found myself, when I got to around the same stage that I am now in this pregnancy, which is 30 weeks, I found myself getting a little bit scared, I'll be honest, because I knew what it felt like, I could remember, I knew what to expect, but at the same time I hadn't had a spontaneous labour before because I was induced last time, so would I go into labour naturally this time? And there were loads of other factors as well that sort of made me really nervous, and I did have like a general fear of birth, and I was just anxious about it. So I'd read a lot about hypnobirthing, I'd heard a lot about hypnobirthing, but I would say I'm quite a logical person. I am quite a romantic individual, and I'm quite sensitive as well, and I can go off with the fairies. But for me, hypnobirthing, before I sort of looked into it, felt like a load of old gobbledygook. I'll put my hands in the air, I'll be honest, like I wasn't sold on the idea at all, because in my head, if all you needed was like your brain and your breathing and some more understanding and practice, why didn't everyone need hypnobirthing? Why was this not like a general thing? Why did we have drugs? But I decided to give it a go anyway because I thought that there was no harm in trying. So with my pregnancy with Daisy, I didn't have the funds to go for a hypnobirthing course, and that was the first hurdle for me because that really put me off, because I thought, well, if this is such a useful skill, why do I have to pay to, you know, attend these classes? I can't afford that. I couldn't afford it. We were saving up at the time for my maternity leave because I only had statutory maternity pay, and every penny counted. Whereas this time, even though I probably could afford to do it, I'm going to go back to basics and do it the way that I did with Daisy. Now, I used two things really. I used a book, which I will go on to in a little while, and I also used tracks on my iPhone, which I would listen to every night. So I started around the 30-week mark with Daisy, and I started reading this book and I started listening to tracks, and I would do it most nights. Obviously there'd be a few occasions where I hadn't done it because I was too tired, or maybe we'd gone out for a meal, but for the most part I would do it. And you know what, I actually really started to enjoy it. So I went through all of this process, and then when it came to giving birth, I actually went into spontaneous labour with Daisy when I was 40 plus 2, so term plus 2 days overdue, and I went into labour after having a sweep, a stretch and sweep, membrane sweep, which does work for me. I can recommend them, but it's totally up to you. And I went into labour in the middle of the night, and it was a surprise for me because obviously last time I was induced and it is very different. and I felt these slow surges of pain in my stomach, and I thought, oh, do I need to go to the toilet? Is this like, you know, have I eaten something dodgy? And I told Mark, my other half, look, I'm gonna go and run a bath and soak for a bit. And honestly, I didn't actually think that it was labour initially. And I got in the bath, and these surges of pain keep coming. They just kept coming and coming and coming, and they were very, very, very close together and quite intense. And I found myself thinking, hang on a minute, Charlotte, you're overdue. You're heavily pregnant. This might actually be labour, so start tracking these. So I used an app on my phone, and I lay there and I thought, right, I'm on my own, I'm in my house, I'm in my bath, it's calm, you've lit a candle, there's no one else awake right now but you and this baby, so just focus on, you know, what you've learned and focus on your breathing and things like that. And I did, and I ended up ringing the midwifery team, and they told me to come in right away because of how fast my labour was with bills. And honestly, Daisy's birth, if you want to know the full story, I will leave like a link to me explaining how her birth went down below. But her birth was magical. It was absolutely brilliant. The midwife was so confident that I knew what I was doing and I was happy and comfortable that she honestly just left us to it. And it was only when Mark went to go and fetch her, because I said I was ready to push, that she came back in the room. At no point did I ever feel like I couldn't do it. I felt so in control, and I knew what was happening with my body, and I just felt amazing. And I, as such, am doing this again, because why wouldn't I want to do that? It was incredible. Now, the first thing I did when I decided that I wanted to do hypnobirthing was get myself a book, and I did a lot of research online, and I looked at like reviews on places like Amazon and things like that. And one of the most popular ones was the Hypnobirthing book by Katherine, and she's actually set up the home of hypnobirthing as well. And there's like sort of like a organisation that a lot of midwives or hypnobirthing teachers will register under and learn her techniques. And I just felt really comfortable knowing that it was a widespread way of teaching hypnobirthing. I'm not saying that you have to get this book, I'm not saying like this is the Bible, get this one, don't do anything else, but this was one that I really enjoyed. You'll also notice as well that in terms of thickness, it's not like it's a hard read. It's not going to take you too long, and it's also really, really nicely laid out inside, which is a useful thing I think for me, because it didn't feel too intimidating. Now, what I really like about this book is that there are 12 chapters in total, and they really, really take you through everything that you want to know. And I feel like I began a skeptic, and at the end I was a believer, if that makes sense, which sounds so corny, but it's true. Like the first few chapters, personally for me, were the most insightful and inspiring, because the first one is Hypnobirthing Explained. So it looks at hypnotherapy, the power of language, hypnobirthing in your mind, the effect of negative thoughts, and then also how like other mammals give birth. And when you start to see the way that animals give birth in nature, you sort of, it starts to click a little bit. But then the next chapter is the uterus and the fear and confident responses. So it actually talks you through about how the uterus works. Now, I don't know if you know this, because I didn't when I started reading this, but the uterus actually has two sets of muscles. So it has the vertical muscles, which are the main set of muscles, and then there are muscles at the very like entrance or opening where you would give birth and the baby passes through the birth canal, and they are completely separate, but they work in unison, but they have different jobs. And it teaches you about how freezing up and getting scared and tense can affect the way your body would naturally respond to giving birth. Then chapter 3 is the mind and body effect, which is looking at the power of the mind and learning about like breathing and visualizations and all of this. And then it goes on into different areas such as relaxation, preparing your baby and your body for birth, nutrition. Now, reading and, you know, finding out more about hypnobirthing is a great start, but if you're obviously not going to a class, you're going to need to learn a few techniques as well. And this book does touch on techniques, don't get me wrong. It teaches you things that you can do with your partner if you want to, things you can do on your own, breathing techniques, visualizations, things like that. But you may also benefit from some tracks as well to listen to, because you can use those while you're in labour. You can pop them on your phone, download them, put headphones in, and then just listen listen to those words and those visualizations while you're giving birth, and it allows you to zone out, so you ignore any hospital noise like beeps, you know, the noise of strangers' voices and things like that, and you can just go into your own little world. Now, last time I actually used 2 tracks from the London School of Hypnobirthing, and I will leave those linked down below so you can download them. As far as I can remember, they were £8.99 each, which is an investment, but at least for me it was a hell of a lot less than doing a course. But this time round I'm still using those tracks because I've still got them. I'm also using Katherine Graves's own tracks that I found on iTunes, is it? Now I have an iPhone, you know, like a lot of us do, but maybe you don't, so maybe this is only useful for iPhone users. But I've never used Apple Music before. I tend to use Spotify, and I went on Apple Music the other day and I searched for them. So this is the track. It's a Hypnobirthing Relaxation, Colour and Calmness with Fish Visualization. While I was looking at this, because it was just a quick search while I was in bed, I realised that I can get 3 months free of Apple Music because I've never used it before, and I'm doing that at the moment, so I've essentially got this for free. So if you haven't used it yourself, or maybe you have Apple Music already, then it might be worthwhile giving this a go and giving it a listen. She goes into a state of hypnobirth really, and relaxation, and sort of teaches you to take your mind elsewhere. And yes, you will listen to it at first and you'll probably want to have a little bit of a giggle, and it will take you a little while to relax, but the more times you start to listen to tracks like this, the more relaxed you are going to become, and the more natural it is going to be for you, and you'll just be able to feel like a little bit more at one with your breathing. You'll learn about like how much your state of mind and your breathing affects your body, and you learn to relax, which is really important, because if you imagine like you want to push your baby out, your body actually voluntarily starts to push and use those uterus muscles anyway. But if you start to resist because you're frightened, then you are just basically giving yourself like a force to go against. Like, it's not going to be as natural as it could be because you're resisting it and you're sort of digging your heels in and you're making it harder for yourself. So it's definitely worth downloading those and trying them out and seeing how they work for you. I'm not saying that hypnobirth is for everybody. My mum actually had about 30 hours of labour with me, I think, and ended up in an emergency C-section because I was face presentation. So instead of coming out like this, I was coming out like this, which could have hurt me and potentially killed me and my mum. So it's not to say that it's the be all and end all. It's not going to solve emergencies. It's not going to give you the perfect results every single time. It might still very well hurt. Some women do hypnobirthing and say no, it wasn't painful, it was just powerful, but it's really, really worth giving it a go. For me personally, I found that yes, I felt like there was pain and I was very aware of the fact that it wasn't a comfortable experience, but I never panicked and I never felt like I couldn't do it. With Bill, I remember saying I can't do it, I can't do it, I can't do it, and I was doing it. It's one of those things where I just think give it a go because it's absolutely amazing, and I will be using those tracks and reading that book. I've already started because I'm 30 weeks now, and I'm really, really, really excited to give birth again. So hopefully you found that really helpful. As I mentioned before, I will leave all of these links down below, and I will also leave a link to Daisy's birth and also a post I wrote when I was pregnant with Daisy about my hypnobirthing plans then as well, if you'd be interested in reading some more. But yeah, I hope that helps. Good luck if you are very close to giving birth. Let me know in the comments down below if you've got any other questions and I will do my best to answer them. And just believe in yourself and go for it because you've got nothing to lose. And yeah, thank you so much for watching and I will see you next time. Bye.